Ini dimulainya kapan ya? Kalau udah lengkap ya? Kalau mulai sendiri aku gimana?
Good afternoon, everyone. You still mood, Mr. Trisno? How are you today? To all of you. Is it clear my screen?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, everyone, we will start at 1 o'clock. Before that, I will show the rules for this parallel session. Distinguished speakers, presenters, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and welcome to the parallel session on International Conference on Green Energy and Environment 2021. I am Hadi Saputra and I will be the moderator for today's discussion. Okay, we'll read the rules for this parallel session. Number 1, all presenters using either synchronous or asynchronous must join full session. Second, presenters are given 10 minutes to prepare and present and 5 minutes to have a discussion. Presenters show the presentation slide through their own devices. Next, in the discussion session, participants are able to ask the question via raise hand or chat room features with this following format: name, institution, and question. Next, presenters must fill in the attendance list via link shared by the committee during the session. And the last, for other than presenters, please always activate the mute feature. Okay, in this room, there are 10 presenters. Are you ready? Okay, I will mention the presenter in this room. First, Mr. Egi, Mrs. Ririn, Mrs. Fitri Apriani, Mrs. Ristika Octavia Asriza, Mr. Murianto, Mr. Auraga Dewantoro, Miss Isma Pahria, Mr. Franto, Mr. Muhammad Yudi Purnawan, and the last one, Mr. Trisno Widodo. Now is 1 o'clock. We will start presentation now. Are you ready? Ladies and gentlemen, we come up to the next session. I would like to welcome Mr. Egy Pratama to prepare and present the slides with the title "A Floating Photovoltaic System for Fishery Aeration." Are you ready, Mr. Egy?
Yes.
Mr. Egy, the screen is yours.
Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to see you all. Today, I will share you about a floating photovoltaic system for fishery aeration. Firstly, it is abstract. Photovoltaic panel as a producer of renewable energy is increasing, being utilized. The electrical energy produced by photovoltaic panel can be used for aeration in the fish pond located quiet, isolated, and far from the main electricity grid. Aeration is important for fishery because it affects the dissolved oxygen level in the water. The system used 2 units of 50 watt peak floating solar panels and 4 units of DC aerator of 12 volt and 0.28 ampere. Without aeration, the dissolved oxygen level measured in the water is 3 until 3.9 milligram liter. After using floating photovoltaic panel to supply the electrical energy for aerators, the dissolved oxygen level in the water is increased to 4.1 until 4.8 milligram liters. Next, the introduction. The use of aerator in aquaculture is important in fish growth because it relates to the concentration of dissolved oxygen in the water. With increase in dissolved oxygen concentration in fish pond, the quality of the pond become healthier and fish productivity increase. The system works by pushing air from the bottom up in the pond in the form of small bubbles that appear on the surface, making dissolved oxygen and the temperature in the water the same. The driving energy for the aerator itself can be sourced from electricity or mechanics. Energy source that can be a solution for fish pond located quite isolated and far from the main electricity grid is floating photovoltaic panels. However, there are a few challenges related to monitoring their performance. Several studies about the science and the use of photovoltaic panel as a source of aerator energy in fish ponds have been carried out in Bangladesh, Philippines, Egypt, Jakarta, Southern South America, and Thailand. In this study, 2 units of floating photovoltaic panels with a capacity of 50 watt peaks each were implemented as an energy source for aerators in the fish pond. In addition, to seeing the performance of floating photovoltaic panel, it is also measured dissolved oxygen level produced from aerator that use power from floating photovoltaic panels. Several other related parameters of concern are the voltage and current generated from photovoltaic solar irradiance at the site photovoltaic panel surface temperature and water temperature. Next is a methodology. For figure 1, we can see a block diagram of photovoltaic system. The radiation received by the solar panel produce energy. Then energy will go to the solar charge controller, where the energy will go to the battery and DC aerator. Arduino reads the value from voltage, current, water temperature, panel temperature, and irradiance. Figure 2, we can see that is floating photovoltaic panels with total capacity of 100 watt peaks or 2 units of 50 watt peak solar panel that use 4-inch PVC to float on the water. The heatsink placed under the solar panel whose tip is dipped into water. The sensor used for measurement are the solar radiation sensor and panel temperature sensor placed on the panel and the water temperature sensor immersed in the water. From figure 3, floating photovoltaic panel as energy source for DC aerators can show is implemented as a aerator. Energy source the panel are floated on the edge of the pond. The power generated from the solar panels goes to the solar charge controller, which is then stored the battery. After battery is charged, power from battery is used to turn on the aerator for producing oxygen. The sensor used include the ENA219 sensor to measure the voltage and current from the panel and the load. The DS18B20 sensor to measure the temperature of the water. The GY302 sensor to measure radiation from the sun, and the DHT22 sensor to measure the panel temperatures. The Arduino device used is Arduino Mega 2560. Result and discussion. For the photovoltaic panels, these are 2 units with a capacity of 50 watt peak each. The panels are used to convert solar energy into electrical energy, which is stored in the battery before being used to power the aerator. Photovoltaic unit use and their placement can be seen in the figure 4. That's it. Okay, next. For figure 5, it is a solar irradiance from the sensor. It can be seen that maximum solar irradiance is 838 watt meter square, and the minimum of 36.8 watt meter square. From the figure 6a, this is a current generated by floating photovoltaic panel. From this figure, the current daily measured were carried out from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The measured current varies influenced by the condition of environmental parameter. From this figure, the highest current measured is 3.56 ampere. Next is a figure 6b was measured using in a ENA 216 sensor. This were carried out from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then the highest voltage value is for 14.8 volt, and the loss is 12.8 volt.
Mr. Eki, you have 1 minute remained.
Okay. From figure 7, 8, yes. From this figure, we know that the highest temperature from the water temperature is 37 Celsius, and from figure B, 7b is highest temperature is 37 Celsius. Okay, this is dissolved oxygen level in the piston. From this figure is now we know that without aerator, the measured the overall values are 3 until 3.9 milligram liters. Then after using aerators, the DO value increased to 4.1 until 4.8 milligram liters. The last conclusion, the use of floating photovoltaic panel as a source of electrical energy to supply location far from the primary power grid needs to be developed. One of its use is a source of electrical energy for aerator in piston. It is seen that there is a significant increase in the dissolved oxygen value in the piston. There is an increase in dissolved oxygen value from 3 until 3.9 milligram liter to 4.1 until 4.8 milligram liter. This increase will certainly positively impact a healthy environment for fish to grow and develop properly. Okay, that is all for me. Thank you very much. I will return to the moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Eki, for the insightful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the question and answer session. Please share the question by using raise hand or chat room. Please, if you any question, share your question by using raise hand or chat room for Mr. Eki. I remember you, every presenter have 10 minutes for presentation and 5 minutes for discussion. Any question for Mr. Eki? No? Okay, nothing question for Mr. Eki. The next presenter, I would like to invite Mrs. Ririn Amelia to share the screen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, Mrs. Ririn Amelia with the title Airmax Model for Rainfall Forecasting in Pangkal Pinang, Indonesia. Mrs.
I have permission to
Yes.
turn off my camera because my signal is unstable.
Okay, Mrs. Ririn Amelia, the screen is yours.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say thank you for coming in our presentation. I'm glad to see you all. Let me introduce our team in this research. I'm Ririn Amelia, and my partners are Desi Juliana Dalimente, Elias Kustiawan, and Ina Sulistiana. In this opportunity, I would like to present about autoregressive integrated moving average with exogenous variable, or model REMAX, and the title is a REMAX model for rainfall forecasting in Pangkal Pinang, Indonesia. Indonesia is a tropical country with high rainfall. Many people know that extreme changes in rainfall can cause damage and even disaster or loss to the community. Rainfall is included in the category of periodic series data. So the forecasting method that can be used is the time series method. Time series models have advantage in certain situations. One of the time series models that can be used to predict rainfall. This research aims to find out the best model and can be used to predict rainfall data in Pangkal Pinang City, Bangka Belitung Island Province, Indonesia. Okay, and the methodology is in this research are the first descriptive statistic for each data rainfall, and the second stationary data, and the third the best model ARIMA, and then we choose the best model ARIMA with the mathematical formula, and then ARIMAX model. And the last, the residual test or residual assumption. Okay, we go to the result and discussion. Okay, we use data from January 2009 to June 2021 based on the table. The data of monthly rainfall and maximum daily rainfall have high variance. Yes, we can see in there. That indicates that they have high variability in the period. When viewed from the maximum value of each data, the highest monthly rainfall in the period January 2009 to June 2021 reached 602 millimeter with maximum daily rainfall is 183 millimeter. And then based on the figure, each data set is not stationary. To progress into the forecasting process, we can perform data transformation or use differencing data. Okay, this is rainfall data plots that have been made difference one. We can see that the monthly rainfall data and the maximum daily rainfall data can be assumed to be stationary after differencing one time according to the existing data condition. Okay, and then we compare the estimate autocorrelation function or ACF and partial autocorrelation function PACF. And based on the ACF and PACF plots in the figure, we have several ARIMA models. And then the models are then selected based on the smallest AIC value. Okay, ARIMA models that have a smallest AIC for monthly rainfall data and the maximum daily rainfall data We have ARIMA 013 for monthly rainfall, and we have ARIMA models 012 for maximum daily rainfall. And then based on the Kiki plots and a PVLU of more than 5%, we can be conclude that the ARIMA model chosen for both monthly rainfall and maximum daily rainfall. ARIMAX model is carried by simultaneously combining the ARIMA model that has been obtained with the exogenous variable. And then we choose the maximum wind speed for exogenous variable. And then we view the AIC value. It can be seen that the ARIMAX model ARIMA with exogenous variable has a AIC value that is smaller than the ARIMA model. And we can say that this indicates that the ARIMAX models is still better than the ARIMA model in modeling monthly rainfall and maximum daily rainfall. So the points are, this research show that there an influence maximum wind speed variable to monthly rainfall and maximum daily rainfall in the Pangkal Pinang city area, Indonesia. And then the prediction value using ARIMA with exogenous variable needs to increase again to take into account seasonal data rainfall. Then possible to add other exogenous factors besides maximum wind speed. Okay, this is the reference we use in this research. We grateful acknowledge the funding from Universitas Bangka Belitung for the publication of this paper. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your great attention. May all those we have shared be beneficial for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ririn Amelia, for the insightful presentation.
Yes.
Okay, we
Yes, please.
come to question and answer session. If you have question, please using raise hand or chat room to other presenters. Any question for Mrs. Ririn? Okay, I have question, Mrs. Ririn.
Yes, Mr.
About the ARIMAX model. Is this a method in include in one software or is a software? What software do you use for this forecasting rainfall?
Okay, thank you for your question. In our research, we use a software, and the software is namely R. That is a open source software, open source.
In Linux system or Windows?
Pardon me?
In Linux system or Windows?
Okay, the software can be used in on Linux or Windows.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Okay, for others presenters, any question for Mrs. Ririn Amelia. Okay, if nothing, question, we go to the next presenter. The next presenter, I would like to invite Miss Evie to share the screen.
Okay, sir.
Miss Evie, with the title Synthesis of 3D Forest Scaffold from Focal Cells Waste-Based Hydroxyapatite with addition silica from tin tailings. Miss Evie, the screen is yours.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? I hope you are well. Thank you, the honorable moderator and all participants ECOG 2021. Let me introduce myself. My name is FJ and our team Fitri Afriani, R.A. Rafsanjani, Ririn Amelia, M. Hudatwi, dan Yuantiando. I'm from Department Fisik, Universitas Bangka Belitung, and here I will present our research. The title is Synthesis of 3D Porous Scaffold from Focal Cell Waste-Based Hydroxyapatite with addition silicates from tin tiling. As per my presentation timeline today, is introduction, method, result and discussion, and the last conclusion. The background of the research is researchers in the field of tissue engineering are currently starting to develop scaffold technology in the bone therapy process to overcome the scarcity of donor. A scaffold must have biocompatibility property and non-toxic. The best material that meet this criteria usually come from calcium phosphate groups such as hydroxyapatite. The source that can be used in hydroxyapatite are egg cell, animal bones, and cell. As an RC village, the development of calcium phosphate-based materials such as hydroxyapatite derived from corn cell is interesting to develop. This is due to the high abundance of corn cell in the Bangka Belitung Island. As per the characteristic scaffold is biocompatibility, biodegradability. A scaffold must have sufficient mechanical strength to support the load before regeneration of new tissue, and the last scaffold have a force size of more than 100 micrometer, so that cell penetration, tissue growth, and vascularization can grow property. Material that can improve this property include silica. The presence of silica ion in the scaffold structure will also increase the bioactivity properties through the formation of the source layer of apatite crystal. We know the Bangka Belitung Island is the largest tin produced in Indonesia. One of the side effects of mining in tin tiling. Physically, the composition of tin tiling is composed of sand, clay, and dust. Through chemical analysis, is it known that the tin with sand contain more than 18% silica? In this research method, we use method polymer sponge replication method. This is because this method has several advantages, such as easy to do and can be used to control the pore size you want to produce. This is a method our research. For the first time, we will cell powder calcinate at 1000 Celsius, and then number 2, we will CEO powder mix with aquades and added phosphate, and then the precipitate obtained was then sinter at temperature of 900 Celsius for 5 hours, and the last we will result hydroxyapatite powder. Method 2, we will send method silica, we will send clean, and then we will combine sand with NaOH and titration with an HCl, and then The precipitate obtained was then sintered temperature of 1000 Celsius for 3 hours, and the last we result silica powder. After we result powdered hydroxyapatite and powder silica, we will combine powder hydroxyapatite and powder silica in the result slurry, and then slurry scaffold sintering, and the last we will result scaffold. This is my result and discussion, our research. Figure 1, this is XRD pattern of each hydroxyapatite synthesis from Kuckel cell wise. This is now from the analysis using expert X corpus with the appropriate reference code is PDF2. The three highest peak produced were located at 2 theta, 31.85, 32.91, and 32.44. They indicate that the results material is hydroxyapatite. Figure 2, XRD version of silica synthesis from thin tiling was. The three highest peak of the silica diffraction, 2 theta, 21.89, 36.10, and 31.34. They indicate the results material is silica. Figure 3, HA silica porous scaffold with polymer sponge replication method, ABC, and figure 4, relationship between mean pore size and HA percent in HA silica scaffold. Through pore size analysis using the equivalent area method and the equivalent perimeter method, it was seen that all scaffold had pore above 300 micrometer. This is figure 5, XRD pattern of HA silica scaffold. After going through the calculation of the refinement of the XRD pattern, it is now that the sintering process at a temperature 900 Celsius does not change the result hydroxyapatite phase. And then lattice parameter of HA silica scaffold. This indicates that the synthesis mixture does not interfere with the biocompatibility properties of two consistent material. The absence of a chemical reaction between hydroxyapatite and silica, this study was related to the low thermal energy given to the sintering process. In addition to hydroxyapatite and silica phase have good thermal stability. And the last, this is our conclusion, our research. First, XRD analysis research have also shown that the thin tiling are dominated by quartz silica. Hydroxyapatite powder was synthesized from column cell using the co-precipitation method, and then size of macrophoros above 300 micrometer, and method used did not provide sufficient energy for the hydroxyapatite and silica to react or undergo fast transformation chemically. Okay, thank you for your attention. And if you have any question, I will return to the moderator. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ms. Effie, for your presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any question for Ms. Effie for her presentation? Any question? Okay, please, if you have any question, using raise hand or chat room to share question until 2 minutes for presentation, and we have 5 minutes for discussion. Any question? Okay, Ms. Effie, for 3D forest, how how you check your synthetic product is as you saw the 3D forest what is POM. I didn't look at in your presentation 3D forest the product your synthesis. Yes.
I don't. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have photo. I have don't photo my sample, sir.
Okay. It means this is no, you have no 3D forest image, right? Is right?
Mm,
Okay, thank you.
okay, sir.
Oh, sorry. We go to the next presenter. I would like to invite Mr. Zomi with the title Process of the lignification cellulose from corn husk using sodium hydroxide. Are you ready, Mr. Zomi?
Ready.
Okay, Mr. Zomi, the screen is yours.
Before I start, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be a presenter in this third international conference on green energy and environment 2021. Let me introduce our research team. There are Ibu Ristika Octavia Asriza, Ibu Rupalia, Dia Humaira, Gilang Autorialdi, and I am Zomi. Of cellulose acetate functional group synthesis corn husk zymes. So let's get started. Currently, the use of masks is part of comprehensive series of prevention to control measures that can limit the spread of respiratory viral disease, including COVID-19. Masks can be used to protect healthy people. Wear yourself when in contact with an infected person. In addition, masks also function as a SARS control worn by infected people to prevent further transmission. The type of mask is recommended is a mask consisting of 3 layers. The inner layer consists of an adsorbent material such as cotton or fiber. The middle layer consists of polypropylene, and the outer layer of a non-adsorbent material such as polyester blend. However, the disadvantage of masks containing polypropylene and polyester is that they are difficult to degrade in nature, so they are not environmentally friendly. According to Ocean Asia Environmental Group data, by 2020, it is estimated that 52 billion masks will produce globally. The masks produced are disposable masks, so there are more than 1.5 billion waste masks enter the world oceans. Therefore, an effort is needed to replace disposable masks with masks that are more environmentally friendly, but have good quality filtering properties. As an alternative way to provide masks with good filtering ability by using raw material from cellulose acetate. One of the biomass waste that has high enough cellulose content is corn husk. The extracted cellulose from corn husk waste will be synthesized in cellulose acetate. So in the study, cellulose extraction from corn husk waste will be carried out and its characterization are determined using FTIR analysis. Let's jump to the next part, which are the methods. Extraction cellulose from corn husk. Corn husk cellulose extraction consists of several stages, namely sample preparation and cellulose extraction. At the preparation stage, the corn husk sample was cleaned of impurities by washing. The results of the washing are then dried in the sun. The dry corn husks were then ground to a size of 80 mesh. Then in the alkaline step of cellulose extraction, the dry corn husk powder was heated in 1 molar sodium hydroxide solution at 80 degrees Celsius for 4 hours. Then the residue is filtered and washed with excess distilled water. Then the bleaching process is carried out, where the residue that had been washed with excess distilled water was then added with a solution of sodium hydroxide, glacial acetic acid, and sodium chloride, and heated in water bath at a temperature of 80 to 90 degrees Celsius for 4 hours. After that, it was filtered and the residue was washed with excess distilled water. Then the residue was heated at 50 degrees Celsius for 10 hours. Cellulose from extraction process was characterized by FTIR to determine its functional group. Synthesis of cellulose acetate. Cellulose was reacted with 25 milliliter of glacial acetic acid for 1 hour at room temperature with continuous to obtain activated cellulose in separate container. 50 milliliter of acetic acid and 3 drop of concentrated sulfuric acid were prepared. The temperature was maintained at 0 degrees. Then the second mix was added to the first mixture and stirred for 3 hours at 40 degrees Celsius. The reaction was to continue for 20 hours at room temperature. Then 20 milliliter of 16 glacial acetic acid was added to dropwise. Then filter with wash. The filter obtained was dripped with a number of DM water to form a white polymer precipitate. White precipitate was filtered and neutral with aqua DM. The cellulose acetate obtained was dry in vacuum oven at 40 degrees Celsius. Cellulose acetate from the process was characterized by FTIR to determine its functional group. And this is the result. As you can see, the figure 1 show the FTIR cellulose. From the result of the FTIR analysis, there is an absorption peak at a wave number of 300 to 3,290 centimeters -1. This absorption indicates the stretching fibration of hydroxyl functional group originating from the cellulose and possibly from the water molecule adsorbed on the cellulose. Absorption at wave number of 2,879 centimeters -1 is a stretching fibration of CH. The present absorption at a wave number 3,031 centimeters -1 indicate the presence of group alkane. The polysaccharide functional group was indicated by the absorption at wave number of 120 centimeters -1. In the FTIR spectrum of cellulose above, there is no absorption peak at one wave number of 1,527 and 1,535 centimeters. The wavelength is the range indicate the presence of carbonyl group on the aromatic ring of lignin. The extracted cellulose will be synthesized into cellulose acetate. The synthesized cellulose acetate was characterized by FTIR to see its functional group. The FTIR of commercial cellulose acetate was used as a comparison. Based on the FTIR result on the screen, it showed that the absorption pattern between commercial cellulose acetate and corn husk cellulose acetate is not much different. The absorption of the hydroxyl group in corn husk cellulose is wider and sharper than commercial cellulose acetate. This is due to the presence of the hydroxyl group of cellulose, which is not substituted by the acetyl group. This is presumably due to the presence of water content in the material resulting from the less than perfect drying process. The characteristic of the absorption band from cellulose acetate are strain fibration of the carbonyl group, functional group ester and acetyl group, alkane and aryl ester. And the last part is the conclusion. But there is also an absorption peak at wave number as it's shown on screen. These peaks indicate the present functional group of hydroxyl, carbonyl, aryl ether, and functional group. This is functional group indicate a cellulose acetate compound. So we can conclude that cellulose acetate from corn husks was successfully synthesized. This is the last of my presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you, Mr. Domi, for your presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any question for Mr. Zomi for his presentation? If you have question, please share your question using raise hand or chat room. Any question? Nothing? Okay, thank you, Mr. Zomi. If nothing, we go to the next presenter. I would like to invite Mr. Murianto to share the screen with the title Techno-Economic Evaluation of Integrated Lefulinic Acid Bioethanol Plant Design based on oil palm empty fruit bands. Are you ready, Mr.?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Murianto, the screen is yours.
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Let me share my screen. Sorry. Okay, screen is. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to moderator for this opportunity. My name is Murianto from Chemical Engineering Department, Faculty of Engineering, University of Indonesia. Today, I want to present our study about techno-economic evaluation in integrated lefulinic acid sulfura bioethanol plant design based on empty fruit bands. This is my outline for presentation today. I'll start from introduction, material method, then result and discussion. And finally, I will close with the conclusion. Okay, as we know, Indonesia is the largest palm oil producer in the world with the total capacity almost 15 million tons and can be more. Indonesia palm oil plantation reached 17 million hectares. One of the waste from the oil palm production is EFB, empty fruit bands. EFB generated from palm oil can be estimated to reach until up to 37 million tons per year. EFB is one of the lignocellulosic biomass that contains cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. The cellulose content in the EFB is around 35 until 45%, hemicellulose around 18 to 25%, the lignin around 25 to 35%. The cellulose and hemicellulose can be converted to some valuable material. Cellulose and hemicellulose can hydrolyze to monosugar, and this sugar can be converted to other materials. Some of the compound that produced from EFB is bioethanol,
leflinic acid, furfural, maybe cellulose acetate, one of the can be produced from EFB, and others. Bioethanol was generally known as biofuel. It can be mixed with the gasoline. Besides that, the bioethanol can be used as hand sanitizer in pharmaceutical or as the solvent. The leflinic acid and furfural, these two compounds, also known as building blocks chemical. It means this raw material can be used as the raw material for produce another compound. Okay, this is the pathway of biomass refinery. From biomass, we get the cellulose, and the cellulose can be converted to glucose to produce bioethanol. Or from the glucose, we can convert to hydroxymethylfurfural and get the leflinic acid and formic acid. In the hemicellulose, can be hydrolyzed to exhaust or glucose, the same pathway, or we can get the cellulose. In the cellulose, we can get the furfural. And in the lignin, lignin is the inhibitor in the lignocellulosic biomass refinery. But lignin can be used as the valuable material, such as lignin-based material, aniline, or the phenolic compound, or the absorbent. Some previous research has been reported about the techno-economic from bioethanol, leflinic acid, or furfural, but they report the only for one product. In this research, the objection is to evaluate the economic feasible integrated leflinic acid, furfural, and bioethanol plan development based on EFB to determine the capacity and also the economic value of the integrated plan, including IRR, payback period, and net present value. This is our method. The EFB that we use is based on Sudiani et al. With the content of cellulose is 40% and the hemicellulose is 80%. Lignin content is 23% and the 2% of S content. We simulated with the software SuperPro Designer version 9.0, and the model development is the capacity of this plant is 100,000 metric ton per year or 15 metric ton biomass per hour. And this production divided to 3 sections: treatment, leflinic acid production, and bioethanol production. This plant operates 330 days in years and 24 hours a day working hours. This is the block flow diagram from our block flow diagram for our research. The EFB we treated with the physical treatment using the grinding and hammer mill. Also, we conduct the alkali treatment using sodium hydroxide, and we get the pulp. And the pulp we divided to leflinic acid production and also to bioethanol production. This is the process from the SuperPro software. This is the pretreatment from EFB. We conduct with the alkaline liquefaction to get the pulp, and the pulp is divided to leflinic acid production and bioethanol production. In the leflinic acid production, we use the plug flow reactor to hydrolysis to IMF. Then we conduct the CSTR reactor to get the leflinic acid and furfural, and we conduct the distillation to purify the leflinic acid and also the furfural. In the bioethanol section, we use the pulp, and then we conduct the simultaneous saccharification fermentation using cellulose enzyme and also yeast Saccharomyces cerevisiae. After we get the bioethanol, we purify it with the distillation and dehydration with the evaporation membrane. This is the calculation of the economic value. The total capital investment of this plan is around 100 million US dollar, with the total operating cost is 115 million US dollar. With the largest composition for this operating cost is cost for raw material, almost 78%. This is the profitability analysis from the simulation plan design. With the total capacity for formic acid is 8,000 tons per year, and the furfural is 21,000 tons per year, and the lefulinic acid 18,000 tons per year, and the bioethanol is 200 tons per year. And the selling price we collect from the internet and other sources. For formic acid is 700, furfural is 1,000 US dollar per ton, lefulinic acid is 800, and bioethanol only 600 US dollar per ton. This economic value, we can get the perfect capital return from this research. This plan is 100 million US dollar, with the gross margin is almost 12.24%, and the ROI, internal rate of return (IRR), we get 29.7%. This indicated that this plan is can attractive because the IRR is greater than MRR, or minimum attractive return, that only 11%. Also, we can see the NPV, net present value is factory almost 50 million US dollar. So this indicated the factory worth it for investment. With the payback period only 4.5 years, this is the less than the half from the plan.
1 minute again,
Okay.
Mr. Murianto.
Okay, thank you, moderator. This is the final presentation. The conclusion of this research is the study show that the production of capacity is 18,000 tons for lefulinic acid, for furfural, and also for bioethanol. With the selling price that I mentioned, the IRR is almost 29%. The NPV value is 50 million US dollar, and payback value is 4.5 years. This economic value indicated this plan design was economically feasible. Okay, that's all for my presentation today. Thank you. I give back to moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Murianto, for your presentation. Okay. For the all participants, any question for Mr. Murianto for his presentation about techno-economic evolution of integrated lefulinic acid bioethanol plant design? All right. Okay, please, if you have question for sharing, you can use raise hand or chat room. We have 5 minutes for discussion. Any question? Nothing? Okay, if nothing question in this presentation, thank you very much, Mr. Murianto. We go to the next presenter. Okay, I would like to invite Mr. Auraga Dewantoro to share the screen with the title Review of Digital PCR Potential for Surveillance of Emerging Disease from Wastewater. Are you ready, Mr. Auraga?
Okay, sir.
Okay, Mr. Auraga, the screen is yours.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Ali Syaputra. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon to the moderator and to all participants of ICOGE 2021. I would like to present our paper about review of digital PCR potential for surveillance of emerging disease from wastewater. Okay. So this is our introduction. The emerging infectious disease, or EID, is currently a major source of concern for global human health. The discovery of EID pathogen also contaminated into wastewater due to trace of DNA or RNA from human excrement. One of the recently approached that did by use epidemiology, or WBE. WBE has the potential to provide an overview of community health as a consideration of public policy. This approach, however, overcomes some problems associated with laboratory technical issues for high inhibitor samples such as wastewater. The most advanced of PCR technology at the moment is digital PCR, or dPCR, scientifically improve the method by improving measurement into absolute quantification when compared to its predecessor, qPCR. Based on this review, the author would like to discuss the PCR potential for environmental surveillance, particularly for early warning of EID transmission, such as COVID-19, as well as the major challenge in laboratory testing. Next, the further investigation of EID trace contamination in sewage. So the occurrence of EID has increased significantly from the late 20th century to the early 21st century. Pathogen traces appear to persist in human sewage system, but their pathogenicity is unknown. Contamination of respiratory EID, such as COVID-19 in wastewater, raise serious concerns about whether it could infect other people, but it was most likely only an RNA or DNA trace from the virus, but it's not infectious. Also, according to the Jones et al. 2020, the possibility of infection due to contamination of food or water from contaminated sewage is strictly low or negligible. This is based on the low survivability of SARS-CoV-2 in the environment. And this is also our finding. This is about the report case of non-waterborne virus detection and contamination in the sewage system caused by human excrement using PCR. So there are the insect-borne pathogen like Zika, dengue, and West Nile, and also the respiratory EID pathogen such as the SARS-CoV-2, CoV-1, MERS, and COVID-19. But both groups proven content in infected human excrement, and there are also the possibility to contaminate wastewater. Yet the pathogenicity is still unknown. The absence of trace DNA or RNA in wastewater is it not like there are no traces in wastewater, but due to the lack of report and research of EID disease in wastewater. So the PCR is a sophisticated method of measuring nucleic acid for absolute quantification. Its advantage is that no reference or standards are required. What makes the difference about the dPCR and qPCR is the sample partitioning. So the sample partitioning is the sample can be divided into monoreal nucleic acid sample individual PCR reaction. So it's allow for detection of single molecule, and it's like in the figure. And also the use of digital PCR will cause the partition effect of the inhibitor to be low. And a single molecule can be amplified exponentially in a partition reaction and assessed for this reaction to detect a gene of interest. This distinct feature in combination statistical data analysis allow for greater precision than conventional PCR and qPCR, particularly when analyzing complex mixtures with high inhibitor concentration. Also, the wastewater surveillance for EIE pathogen can be performed on a variety of sewage samples, such as untreated wastewater. This PCR demonstrated than qPCR, which had a lower LOQ value in combination of untreated wastewater and black water. Because of the lower LOQ value, the PCR was able to identify more samples with low nucleic acid concentration. This also supported by another study by Ahmad et al. That the aircraft untreated wastewater also suggests the PCR ability to identify more samples than qPCR. The usability of the PCR can answer some of the problem of WBE, such as the complexity of the matrix of wastewater and a sensitive and cost-effective method through a nucleic acid measurement approach. This advantage contributes to becoming one of the effective methods in providing more accurate results on WBE. Also, the PCR also have overcome some challenge, especially for wastewater analysis related to EID. The first is sampling. So it starts from the selection of the representative location, also the type of the sample of the wastewater, and how about we storage that sample, and the method analysis. It will impact the result of the PCR testing. And it's also necessary to transport and store sample at negative 80 degrees Celsius to the distance between sampling and the laboratory. And it is also recommended that frozen sample is stored in a lattice buffer to prevent PCR signal loss. And the second one is the dynamic range and cost. Because the dPCR depends on the sample partition effect, the maximum number of the partition depth can also restrict the PCR's dynamic range. So the PCR instrumentation is more specialized, and the workflow of testing steps are more complicated. And also, it's possible the cost per test is relatively higher, but maybe it can be solved by the absence of reference standard and can compensate for this problem. And then as a lower the upper part of the base range, so it can quantify the higher concentration of sample. So it need to dilute into low concentrate to become get a successful testing. So the higher concentration of target molecules can be result in higher variability and less precision due to the loss of linearity. But this situation is encountered in qPCR, which has better performance at this range. And then next is the standardization. So the PCR is still new in the context of EID surveillance on wastewater. And this is also quite new also in Indonesia. So we need to standardize sampling and do a pre-analytical analysis are required to establish sample bank and database of environmental samples. That also the mutually agreed standard method and criteria certified data will be an advantage for establishing a worldwide monitoring system for human pathogens. And this is also our conclusion. So in the context of EID environmental surveillance, dPCR is a cutting-edge method with capability comparable to qPCR. The advantage of dPCR is sensitivity, which allow to measure the absolute number of nucleic acid copy number in tiny amounts while being more resistant to inhibitors. The dPCR method can measure various types of wastewater with higher sensitivity value without external controls. The challenge for dPCR in EID environmental surveillance includes sampling, dynamic range, cost, dilution, and standardization. the use of virus matrix and robust testing for its EID pathogen is also required to support data for standardization of the dPCR method for environmental surveillance of EID. And this is some reference that I quote in my presentation. And thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Auraga Dewantoro,
Yeah, you're welcome.
for the excellent presentation. Okay, can you open your camera, Mr.? For the other presenter, any question for Mr. Auraga Dewantoro? As usual, no, nothing question. Okay, I have question for you, Mr. Auraga. In your research, you related to the feces from human, right? Your sample?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm mute my speaker.
Okay, okay. That's right.
Yes, I get the information from pathogen from the human excrement.
Okay. How you collect the sample?
No, it's
How you make sure what the wastewater is containing is contained feces from human? Okay.
So our this is a literature review. So this is the sample from human the feces and urine that we search and another source. So we found some research paper, especially outbreak disease like SARS-CoV-2 and another EID before like Zika and many more. They found it suggests that the human excrement can contain the trace of DNA or RNA from the virus. So, but the possibility to do reinfection from the feces and urine or the human excrement is still unknown. But some research that I know, like Zika and SARS-CoV-2, they can do some like do like preclinical analysis, like they like do in like animal modeling, and they saw it's possible to do infection from human excrement or from the infected wastewater that contain the virus to the infected the animal model, but it's still unknown. It's possible to infect the human. Yeah, that's all for my answer.
Thank you. I only confirm about your research because I think the sampling is an important part in this research. Okay, thank you for Mr. Auraga. For the other presenters, you have question? Nothing. Okay. If the nothing question, we go to the next presenter. Okay, I would like to invite. Okay, Miss Isma Pahria. Okay, Miss Isma presentation via asynchronous. Okay, I will show the video recorded about her presentation.
If you do, I would move you to in the last list of the present.
Okay.
Yes, you can see this thing. I'm so sorry.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you to Universitas Bangka Belitung that gave us a chance to present
Okay,
our
everyone,
research. And
you
let me
see
introduce
the
myself first.
screen?
My name is Fahria, along with my friend Ina Sulistiana. We both come from Universitas Bangka Belitung, and we would like to present our research, vector error correction model to analyze energy uses, environmental quality, and economic growth during COVID-19 pandemic. And the background of this research is, as we know, now currently the world community is being hit by the outbreak of COVID-19 cases, which is increasing along with a large number of data showing positive events today. As you can see on the screen, this is the curve daily positive COVID-19 cases in 2021. And on January 1st, there are 8,072 cases. And the curve very slowly started from June. And on July 15 was the highest spring cases. There are 56,757 cases, but the curve moving slowly, moving down slowly until now on September 2021. There's only 2,107 cases in the daily positive COVID-19 cases in Indonesia. The effect of COVID-19 pandemic in Indonesia is effect to economic growth. Indonesia experienced recession during COVID-19 pandemic throughout 2020, as you can see in the curve. This curve is we took from Badan Pusat Statistik. And as you know, not only the economic growth, but the effect of COVID-19 pandemic is effect to the energy use. And one of the main factors influencing economic growth is energy use itself. And condition in Indonesia itself, the CREA, or the Center for Clean Energy and Air Research, state that the maximum reduction in carbon dioxide emission reached until 18.2%, and the level of NO2 gas in Jakarta or nitrogen dioxide gas in Jakarta decreased by around 40% from the gas level last year. And factor error correction model we use here as a multivariate time series model, which is a factor form of FAR model for non-stationary data that has a co-integration relationship or long term. And the purpose of this research or this study is to model the co-integration relationship and providing clarity on the long-term relationship of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on energy use, environmental quality, and economic growth in Indonesia. And in this research, the data used are monthly data on energy consumption, carbon dioxide emission, gross domestic product, and positive cases of COVID-19 in Indonesia. And the data were taken for 1 year, namely 2020, where positive cases of COVID-19 were recorded in Indonesia. Because of the data, it's not complete. I mean, we just can find the data for energy use and gross domestic product, and carbon dioxide emission in Indonesia is just available on 220. So I just take the data from 2020, not until 2021 or until now. And then this is the procedure to do this research. First, we are test the stationary data using augmented decay-filler. This test to see if the data contains the originator or not, and then the second step is to see the optimum lag, and using Akaike information criteria, Schwarz information criterion, and Hannan-Quinn criteria. And the next step is Johansson co-integration test to see the long-term balance between the observed variables. And the last one is structural analysis to see the effect of shocks on the most dominant variables. And this is the result and discussion from our research. Based on the table 1, it can be seen that after the first differencing, the p-value for each of the data variables above is smaller than alpha 5%. It can be concluded that zero hypothesis is rejected, which means that the data doesn't contain unit roots or is stationary after the first difference is performed. That's because the data doesn't contain unit roots or is stationary, then we can go to the step 2 to see the optimum lag length. And based on the table 2 above, it can be seen that the smallest LR, FPE, AIC, and SC values are found in lag 1. Okay, and thus it can be concluded that the optimal lag in the VECM model is the VECM on the lag 1 or on the first lag model. And then next, we can test the co-integration data. And as we can see from the table 3 Johansson co-integration rank test, now we use to trace statistic and maximum eigenvalue to see the co-integration data. And trace test indicates that the two co-integration equation at the 5% level. Okay, and the maximum eigenvalue, it shows that max eigenvalue test indicates there are two co-integrating equation at the alpha 5% level. We can see from the first double non and at most 1 star here. And then this is the last one, structural analysis. You can see the impulse response analysis, and in impulse response analysis, to presented in the figure will explain the response of a variable that will occur due to a shock of one standard deviation from either the variable itself or other variables. And this figure shows that during the COVID-19 pandemic that like Indonesia during 2020, it gave a shock that caused various response from variables. It can be seen that the response to carbon dioxide emission to positive cases of COVID-19 didn't provide significant movement and remain close to the value 0. Meanwhile, the response given by the variable energy use and economic growth to positive cases of COVID-19 showed a negative response starting from approaching the 3rd month to the end of the year. And the last one is variance decomposition. Variance decomposition is the next step in the VECM model and serve to provide information on how important the change in each random innovation is relative to change in the variables in the VECM. Briefly, variance decomposition explain which variable shocks make an important contribution in explaining change in variables. Based on the figures, it can be seen that there is no cross over the dominance of each research variable. So it can be concluded that energy use, carbon emission, economic growth, and positive cases of COVID-19 are caused by the movement of the research variable themselves. And This is the conclusion of our research. The result of calculation using GSM-1 show that energy use, environmental quality are interrelated and have a long-term co-integration relationship. Second, shock that occurs by one standard deviation in positive cases of COVID-19 will result in a decrease in the variability of energy use and gross domestic product. And the last, environmental quality doesn't respond to significant movement, but tends to be constant and close to one. And this is the last our research, and I would like to say thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, that is a presentation from Ms. Isma Paria via synchronous. If you have question, please use chat room, and I will record your question, and then I will send your question to presenter. Okay, for the next presenter, also via synchronous from Ms. Mardia. I will show the video. Okay.
Ilyas itu kayaknya dia mau pindah ke mana tadi? WO.
Okay, wait.
Oh, udah bukan berarti. Mau Bu, kami salah masuk, kami masuk di kelas L. Nah, kami sudah di kelas I kayaknya. Yes. ID. Oh. AM.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity to present the result of our research. The title is
Ilyas.
Share my screen first.
Kok ngapa dia ngerubah jadi 157 tuh?
Okay.
Ada dua ID-nya.
Our title research is Analysis of Granitoid Type of Bukit Nunggal, Village Air Mesuk Central, Bangka Regency. Why we choose this location and the title is because many intrusion in Bangka, especially Central Bangka, and the granitoid is now many activity of mining. So we want to know what of type the granite, and so we choose the Nunggal Hill. Nunggal Hill is a isolated hills, intrusion granite. So we like to what type of granite in the Nunggal Hill. We description several sample and several location in the part of Nunggal Hill, and then we have analysis that sample with two methods. This is a map of sample location. We took the sample. We took the sample because looking that type of granite, and based on choosing the sample about elevation and then different texture of granite. And then we analysis two method. The first one is thin section analysis to looking differences of minerals content, and then we analysis a method is XRF. This is a location we took several sample. The result of analysis two method of sample in Nunggal Hill. The first is we have two lithology, two kind of lithology, two type. Granite is the first is common granite in Bangka Island, and second is a metamorphism granite, so it's a namely gneiss. This is a mineralization content. We have many common granite in Pulau Bangka Island is a feldspar, and then type of gneiss is majority of mineral is quartz. And then result of SRF dominated silica from all of the sample. In conclusion of our research is we have two granite found in Nunggal Hill, namely the first one is granite, common granite in Bangka Island, and second is granite alterate gneiss, and because metamorphism process and the mineral mainly is quartz, feldspar, biotite, opak, sericite, and all chlorine. Maybe that's our presentation. We want to grateful acknowledge the funding from University of Bangka Belitung through the RKKLFT for the publication of this paper. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, that is a presentation from Ms. Mardia, ID paper 116 via asynchronous. Send away. If you have question, you can write in the chat room. I will confirm with her. Okay, everyone. We go to the next presenter. I would like to invite Mr. Muhammad Yudi Purnawan with the title Groundwater Table Restoration Method using Substitution of Surface Water Utilization, case study Cimahi, Bandung, Soreang Groundwater Basin. Are you ready, Mr. Muhammad Yudi?
Okay, another question.
Yes, Mr. I'm ready.
Okay, Mr. Muhammad Yudi Purnawan, the screen is yours.
Is my screen appear to you, sir?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, committee, for the opportunity. The analyst. My name is me to present my recent research regarding assessment of groundwater table restoration using substitution of surface water utilization. Case study Cimahi, Bandung, Soreang groundwater basin. In this presentation, I will divide it into 4 parts. The first part is introduction. The second will be material and method. The third is result and discussion. And the conclusion for the last part. Okay, let's move on to the first part, introduction. Cimahi City, part of Bandung, Cimahi City, part of Bandung Regency, and part of Sumedang Regency are incorporated in Greater Bandung metropolitan area. Those regions were formed to aggregation of economic, social activities, development, and population. Excessive groundwater pumping induced by rapid industrialization and population expansion in the Bandung Basin has resulted in subsurface environmental concerns such as extreme groundwater withdrawal and land subsidence. Furthermore, uncontrollable groundwater pumping has occurred in the Citarum watershed, particularly in the urban and industrial Bandung Soreang Groundwater Basin region, resulting from rising raw water demand. In addition, change in land use in the upstream area worsened the problem by reducing groundwater recharge capacity. It is known that there is cone of depression occur in Cimahi, Dayakolot, and Ranca Ekek area. Second part is material and methods. In order to assess groundwater table restoration using surface water, we need to study the previous research regarding groundwater modeling in Bandung Soreang Groundwater Basin. The first step of study in the experimental station of groundwater carry out research of groundwater modeling in Bandung Soreang Groundwater Basin to generate a prototype of groundwater model in urban and industrial areas in Bandung Soreang Groundwater Basin. Or groundwater decline focus on Cimahi. The next step is calculation of surface water availability in research area. Water availability data, which is secondary data from Hydrology and Water Environmental Agency, is used to calculate surface water availability. The secondary data describes the potential quantity of each sub-watershed and the current raw water intake in each sub-watershed in the upstream Citarum sub-watershed near Cimahi area. First, the subsurface water potential is calculated using K90 dependable discharge for each sub-watershed, then combined with existing surface water utilization to get a net discharge in each sub-watershed. The third step is surface water quality analysis. The surface water sample are taken in each downstream of sub-watershed that will be used to study for water quality analysis. After that, the sample is examined in a lab to assess the water quality in each sub-watershed to identify how water treatment may be performed on parameters that do not satisfy with water quality requirement. The final step is assessment of groundwater table restoration method using substitution of surface water utilization by remodeling groundwater condition based on the new parameter. The evaluation is carried out by updating the groundwater model's input data, assuming that all other numerical parameters in the model have not changed during 10 years of simulation. The input data for the groundwater model is based on the volume of groundwater utilization, which is replaced by surface water utilization. The groundwater level in the cone of depression in the Cimahi area region is then monitored every modeling year to assess the benefit of substituting groundwater with surface water. This is for the material and method part. We move to result and discussion. And in earlier part, we already know that in order to know suitability of surface water, we need to identify its quantity and quality. In quantity assessment, we use sub-watershed in Upper Citarum zone, namely Cimahi, Ciberem, Ciwidey, Cibolerang sub-watershed. Dependable discharge data in each sub-watershed we acquired from Hydrology and Water Environmental Agency, Ministry of Public Works and Housing, who has conducted research on dependable discharge and existing surface water utilization in upstream Citarum watershed. Based on this calculation, required potential water discharge that can be used in the study, which is around 2040 and 483 liter per second. For the quality assessment, we have done surface water sampling. Surface water sampling is carried out at several points in sub-watershed in April 2020, 7 locations to be exact, and then tested in the laboratory to determine the surface water quality. Several quality parameters, as you can see in the slide in red color, do not meet the clean water quality standard. Several parameters exceed the quality standard, such as color, turbidity, TDS, ammonia, cadmium, manganese, and iron. So we need to develop treatment to purify the quality. Briefly, the quality tested in the laboratory does not meet the health standard, but water treatment plants are needed in each river, so the water quality can be used to meet water needs. The water treatment required, as is shown in the right table on this slide. The next slide is assessment of groundwater table restoration. The assessment is carried out using the existing experimental station for groundwater research in 2020. The model in this research is carried out by reducing groundwater utilization, and the water demand in this area is considered to use surface water as its substitute for groundwater. The volume and the quality water to be utilized have been carried out in the previous subchapter to ensure the quantity and quality of surface water can be used. Based on the graph we put on the slide, the amount of available water used in the 4 sub-watershed is around 2,000 liters per second. The groundwater model will be carried out with a water treatment plan for 10 years, and the increase in groundwater level will be also for 10 years. With a simulation for 10 years, the groundwater level in the cone of depression zone in Cimahi area is expected to increase 0.6 meters. Conclusion: from the analysis that has been carried out, surface water in the sub-watershed around Cimahi area can be utilized according to the quality. And in terms of quality, the surface water still need to be treated to improve some of quality parameters that do not meet health standard. Simulation of the development of groundwater model use the quantity of surface water as substitute for the groundwater utilization, and considering the period of the water treatment construction being carried out for 10 years with total capacity of around 2,000 liters per second, produce prediction that will positively increase the groundwater level by 0.6 meter in 2030. So this is the final slide of my presentation. Thank you all the participants for your attention. Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Yudi Purnawan, for the insightful presentation. Okay, Mr. Muhammad Yudi, you have a question from Mr. Trisno. Okay, I will read the question. Mr. Muhammad Yudi explained that groundwater utilization can be substituted by surface water. What factors are needed to plan the construction of a water treatment plant in the research area?
Okay, thank you for the question. As for me, there are many factors that influence the planning of water treatment plant development in this study. In my understanding, we need to identify the availability of land in the area, since the area is in the research area is densely populated area and densely populated with industrial activity. Thus, identifying land with the required elevation for the distribution of clean water is priority factor. It's also affect the planning for clean water piping to distribute the clean water. That is important factor for planning construction of water treatment plant in my understanding. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Trisno, enough? Or any question? It's clear? Mr.
Yes.
Trisno?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yudi Purnawan. Okay. To the others presenters, any question for Mr. Yudi Purnawan? If you have question, you can using raise hand or chat room. Okay, I think no question again. If nothing, we go to the last presenters, Mr. Trisno Widodo, with the title Aquifer Susceptibility of Groundwater Pumping in Kediri City, East Java Province, Indonesia. Are you ready, Mr. Trisno?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, Mr. Trisno, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me, can you see my slide right now? Hello, sorry.
This is clear.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the time. In this opportunity, I would like to present our research titled Aquifer Susceptibility to Groundwater Pumping in Kediri City, East Java Province, Indonesia. Let me introduce the author. I'm Trisno Widodo. Second author is Mr. Wahyu Wilopo, and the third author is Mr. Agung Setianto. We are from UGM Yogyakarta. My talk this afternoon divided into 4 main sessions, including introduction, methodology, result, and conclusion. First, introduction, the development of Kediri City in various sectors such as industry, agriculture, and population growth will also followed by increasing water. Kediri City consists of 3 sub-districts: East, Mojoroto, Kota, and Pesantren. The groundwater is still a major source in this city due to the lack of surface water. The utilization of groundwater not only for daily purposes, but also for irrigation by developing depth wells. The population growth of Kediri City from 2018 to 2019 was 0.74%. The production of drinking water by municipal waterworks of Kediri increased by 2.3% from 2018 to 2019. Excess use of groundwater can lead to a decrease in groundwater levels in wells, rivers, and lakes, causing a reduction in groundwater quality, land subsidence, causing higher costs for groundwater extraction, and affecting the sustainability of groundwater resources. Repairing aquifer damage due to overpumping is very expensive. Aquifer susceptibility should be considered during groundwater exploitation to minimize a negative impact on the environment. This research aims to analyze the susceptibility of the aquifer to pumping in Kediri City, which is helpful for planning and making decisions in the management of groundwater resources. The determination of aquifer susceptibility is based on aquifer response characteristic, aquifer storage characteristics, allowable subsidence of groundwater level, and depth to groundwater level.
An aquifer susceptibility map to groundwater pumping inclusivity is obtained from those parameters analysis. And the next part, methodology. This study used for parameters that must be considered in investigating aquifer susceptibility, include aquifer response characteristic. It's the result of dividing the transmissivity value by the storativity value. The well pumping test data obtain the value of transmissivity and storativity. The transmissivity of the aquifer is an important variable that affects the yield of pumped wells. The higher the transmissivity value, the greater the groundwater flowing in the aquifer, and the lower to the drawdown of the pump well. Number two, aquifer storage characteristic are the result of dividing the storativity value by the groundwater recharge value. The groundwater recharge value is calculated based on rainfall data in the study area. Allowable subsidence of groundwater level, called drawdown, it's calculated from the well pumping test. And the final parameter is depth to groundwater level is obtained by measuring the depth of the groundwater table in the residence well. As you can see in this table, there are 4 parameters. Aquifer response characteristic have 4 class, F4 score for from 1 to 4, and the other aquifer storage characteristic same as to the aquifer response characteristic, have score 1 to 4, and allowable subsidence of groundwater level or drawdown have score 1 to 4, and depth to groundwater level have score 1 to 4 too. The greater the score value, the greater the potential susceptibility of an aquifer to the groundwater pumping. The sum of the scores for each parameter is used to determine the level of aquifer susceptibility to pumping. High susceptibility category have a total score of 13 to 16, 9 to 12 includes the moderate susceptibility, and the total score 4 to 8 consists of low flow susceptibility. Here the result, transmissivity value of the aquifer inclusivity is the range of 0.84 to 683.39 meters square per day. The storativity value of the aquifer inclusivity is the range of 0.000045 to 0.000261. The aquifer response characteristic parameter inclusivity is in the class more than 100,000 meters square per day to 1,000 meters square per day. All areas of inclusivity have a score of 4 for the aquifer response characteristics parameter. As you can see in this map, all areas inclusivity are on the score of 4 in the red color. Next result, the groundwater recharge value inclusivity range from 250.29 to 470.33 millimeter per year. The values of aquifer storage characteristics parameter inclusivity area are in the class fewer than 0.001. All areas of inclusivity have a score of 1. As you can see in this map, in this figure, and the green color. Result for the drawdown value or allowable subsidence of groundwater level. Inclusivity range from 0.91 to 11.47 meters. The value of the drawdown parameter inclusivity are fewer than 20 meters. So all areas in inclusivity have score of 4 for the drawdown parameter. As you can see in this map, all areas inclusivity have a score of 4. It's red color too. And the depth to chronometer table parameter in criticality based on well measurements range from 0.3 to 15 meters. The western part of criticality, as you can see in this map, is yellow color, has a chronometer table depth of 10 to 50 meters, and the score is 3. And while the other area has a depth of fewer than 10 meters, score of 4. As you can see in this map, is the red color. Here the final result. The result of overlaying of 4 parameters show that there are 2 zones of aquifer susceptibility to groundwater pumping in criticality. They are high susceptibility level with the total score of 13 to 16, and moderate susceptibility level total score 9 to 12. The western part of criticality has a high level, is high susceptibility, and the middle to the eastern part of criticality has a moderate level of susceptibility. Here the conclusion: the aquifer susceptibility to groundwater pumping in criticality was developed based on the overlay of aquifer response characteristic, aquifer storage characteristic, allowable subsidence of groundwater level, and depth to groundwater level parameters. The aquifer susceptibility to groundwater pumping in criticality range from moderate to high. Areas with high aquifer susceptibility are dominated in the criticality. Only a small part of the west has a low aquifer susceptibility. High aquifer susceptibility area to groundwater pumping due to shallower of groundwater table compared to the other regions. This information can be used as a basic information for groundwater quantity, especially in the high susceptibility area, and as a consideration for land use planning. Here my presentation, and that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for your great attention. If you have any question, I would be happy to open up the discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Trisno Widodo, for the insightful presentation. Okay, to all of presenters, any question for Mr. Trisno Widodo? If you have question, you can use raise hand or chat room. Okay, you can give us about his presentation. No question? As usual, no question. Okay, we have 5 minutes for discussion. In this session, okay, if no question in this session, we can close the session. But before that, we hope you all open the camera. I will check Victor for documentation. Please open the camera. Miss Evie, Mr. Zomi, Mrs. Ririn Amelia, please open your camera. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait. Okay, thank you. Before that, ladies and gentlemen, this is at the end of this session. On behalf of the committee, we would like to show our gratitude for your active participation to this conference. We do hope that this event gives us fruitful insight for the development of future science. To kindly remind you, presenters and participants are expected to join for tomorrow's schedule at 10:45 on the closing ceremony of ICOG. There will be announcement for the best presenter for every parallel class, include our class. Okay, thank you for today, and we do apologize for the inconvenience during this parallel session. See you tomorrow on the second day of ICOG. Good afternoon and have a nice day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mister.
Yeah, you're welcome.